Hey guys, I'm excited to bring you another coaching session from Dr. Benjamin Hardy. In this session, he explains how to become a person of interest and influence. But something's interesting. He argues you don't necessarily have to use social media to do this, even in 2026. Stick around to the end because there's a short but very powerful session from Dr. Benjamin Hardy. So when you think about the science of influence, because you have an alternative approach. Bradley is on social and getting 11 million views on Instagram and YouTube, but you've actually narrowed your focus and actually cut out some of these things, like maybe YouTube or those things. So you kind of have an alternative perspective that I'd love to hear. And just your thoughts on the kind of the science of becoming an influential person.
And I do want to show you, if we can pull this up. I'm not going to go too deep on this. I do want you all to understand in a bit. I've talked about this a little bit. The book I'm writing right now is actually called Power Law Strategy. And I really think that we've been trained in the bell curve world. We've been trained that the bell curve world is the idea that there's a normal distribution, that all things are created equal. That's why we focus on the mean. And the real world is not all things are created equal. The real world is that results live on a power law, and that a few of the things you do create almost all the results. Right? 80-20, but on steroids. And so I knew that principle even 10 plus years ago as a first year PhD student, that if I wanted to become a professional author, I needed to find the pathways that could create power law returns. I couldn't do everything. I was told by amateurs, even though they were professionals, they operate like amateurs, that I needed to do everything. I was told you need to have big followings on every social media platform, you need to have stuff published about you everywhere, et cetera, because they live in this world where you got to do everything. And I knew that results operate on a power law, that there's a few things that if I do them extremely well, I'm going to get extreme results. And so I found a pathway, which back then was medium.com, that I really quickly learned. I validated that pathway because I knew that if I wanted to get a 6-figure book deal, I needed to get 100,000 email subscribers. That was me. That was my goal. My goal wasn't just to get followers or likes or subscribes. I really had I wanted to write books in a very effective way to very effective people like you all. And so once I knew that I needed to get 100,000 email subscribers, I started publishing on Medium, and pretty quickly, because that platform was set up for it. It's not set up for that anymore, so don't go run with my methods, right? Like that pathway is probably not going to get you to where it got me. But within a month, I had an article go extremely viral, and I put a call to action at the bottom, and told people to go and get my free newsletter and get my free ebook. And I immediately, within the first month, I had 5,000 email subscribers. So I already knew that this pathway worked, and so I just went all in on it. All in. And I think that that's one of the things that people miss with pathways, is once you've validated the pathway that you want to go on, go all in on it. So I just focused on that one platform for about 12 to 18 months. I didn't focus on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. I didn't focus on anything. I focused on one platform. I already validated that it's going to get me where I wanted to go. And it took me about 14 months, really, of focus. And I had over 100,000 email subscribers, and I was getting 20,000 per month with no paid ads. And I had a ton of publishers at that point coming for me and offering me hundreds of thousands of dollars to push my first published book with them, right? And that book deal is in the 1% of book deals, and I started from scratch and got there in 14 months, and I was told by everyone it would take me 10 years. But I focused on what's the few things that are going to get me all the results, and then I created mastery in that. Rather than being an amateur at 5 things, I became the power law on one. I became the top author on that platform, and I learned how to master it because I knew that platform would work. And so that just fits a lot with my philosophy of not only decision making, but it fits with the philosophy of strategy as well. That strategy is mostly about what you don't do, right? And so when you go for high goals, you have to be very discerning on pathways. That's my belief. But for me, I prefer more of a focused approach rather than the spray and pray approach, right? I'm very much like, who do I want to serve? Who do I want to influence? And I'm okay knowing that I'm not going to I would rather have a specific message for someone specific rather than trying to hit everyone. I don't feel like I could make the biggest impact that way. That's my belief.
So when you think about becoming a person of interest in the world, because you created a very specific skill set, then these other people wanted to partner with you, Tony Robbins, whomever, right?
Sure.
Was it because you think the body of work that you created, and that's what they were most attracted to? Did they see you as a way to help their brand grow? I mean, how do you think these strategic partners are seeing you? Because you probably have a lot of chances, like we do, to partner with a lot of people.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, where do these people come from? What do they see in us? What kind of partnership do we want to do with them? Do you think it's because of the body of work that you created? Do you think it's because of the problem you're solving, or the skill set that you have?
Probably a combination.
Okay.
Just as an example, like when Tony Robbins read The Science of Scaling, and I gave it to him probably 2 months before it came out, or 3, he invited me to his house, and he basically just he showed me like the ringed up version. I sent him one like this, had it like in a 3-ring binder, mailed it to him. Actually, no, he had printed it and did that himself. I sent him a PDF, and it was just marked up, and he just said, he was kind of trying to pitch himself to me. He's like, what is your plan with this book, etc. And I think that's kind of what it takes, is for that level of mastery. If you want to be signal to certain people, right? So if you want to try to be signal to everyone, I think you're going to mostly be noise, right? And so I wrote something that was extreme signal to Tony Robbins, right? And it was like, he saw that, oh, this is different, right? And strategy is mostly about being different, not about trying to out-compete everyone. So he saw that, oh, this is different. Okay. This stands out. This hits different, right? This is and so, yeah, I just think that level of depth and that level of mastery, it's exponential. Back to qualitative, right? We were talking about qualitative yesterday. I think that getting to extreme levels of quality and differentiation and distinction is worth it. I think that when you start to think in terms of quality, things can go exponential because there's a unique value there. And really what the world is looking for is value. And in the world nowadays, there's just too much noise.
Right.
There's people who don't want value. They want to microwave it, And AI can microwave things a lot. And AI is an incredible tool. But what we're going to get in our power law world, and by the way, AI is accelerating the power law world. AI, I wish I could show you guys a video. Maybe I'll send it to you. But we're going to get 100x the volume of stuff. And most of it's going to be noise. But the really good stuff that's distinct is going to be able to, when you get down here on the bell curve, when you get down to here, which is really where you're now over there, when you get over here, this stuff's gonna really stand out in a world of noise, and it's gonna really scale, and it's gonna really compound in a world where people are just getting lazier and lazier and lazier. Like the stuff that's real, the stuff that's deeper, if we use these tools correctly, so it's valuable and it's worth it to focus on quality and distinction. It opens up big things, by the way. And I wasn't going out and seeking Tony. I sent him the book, but when you get to that level of quality, people come to you.
Right.
Extremely. People come to you because your stuff stands out. You still want to go out and pitch and, go for it.
Right.
But your stuff stands out. And so really interesting opportunities come. Like as an example, I had Intuit come to me. Okay. Intuit has tens of millions of clients, business owners that use QuickBooks, right? And they're trying to go into a more enterprise level, right? And so they're wanting to focus on scaling too.
Okay.
Right? I think this is part of, by the way, seeing where the world is going. We're in a more of a power law world, right? This is an incremental world. This is a scale world. This is the world we're going into. This is what AI is pushing even further. So I just think understanding where things are going, and so because Intuit is seeing that we're going into more of a scale world, more of an AI scale world, they want to partner with someone who understands scaling. And so they reached out to me and said, we want to get our enterprise level content out there. We've got tens of millions of people that use QuickBooks, but we want to transition the top ones up to our enterprise level things. Will you come and teach our clients scaling, and then we can show the right ones the enterprise thing? Yep. I wasn't looking for Intuit to come to me, but now I can teach Intuit's millions or even tens of millions of clients about scaling.
Right.
So those kind of incredible partnerships can come if you position yourself right.
Okay.
Right, to the idea of influence. I think influence in a lot of ways, and I think you'd agree, is about positioning as well.
Yeah.
And how you want to be positioned, but for who.
Yeah.
And I think the difficulty with strategy is that if you're trying to influence everyone, you're not going to be specific to anyone.
Yeah.
And so I think it's powerful to be willing to be specific, and a big part of strategy is the difficulty of what not to do. And being willing to say, I'm going to leave those things aside. As an example, when I shifted over to scaling.com as our company, I probably lost 90% of my audience.
Okay.
And I've lost, my audience used to be broader, very broad, and it got more specific, and now it's very specific. And so I have this huge email list that I had built back in my Medium days, and most of them, they don't even know what I'm up to anymore because I'm so focused, right? I'm focused on these people now, not these people. And when you focus on these, you actually can create 10 or 100x the impact. Because if I can impact you guys who are in Coach Burt's room, like what you can do with this information is fundamentally different than if I was just out on the streets yelling it to the crowds.
So earlier in the day, we talked about becoming the buyer versus the seller, right? And you become a person of interest. Now you're the buyer versus the seller.
Big time.
Now now you're getting to choose who you work with and who you don't, and what are they coming for, because you really are that person of interest in that space. Okay, so I really want you to kind of tie these concepts together. When you think about these big strategic partnerships now that are coming to you, what is the filter? Because part of being a person of interest is you're going to have a lot of inbound opportunity. Okay, you're going to want to get involved in all kinds of deals. Okay, what's the filter you're looking for when you say yes, or mostly you're saying no? But what's the filter? I guess opportunity filter that you would use.
It's a gorgeous question. So when I actually put out an email to my audience, my email list yesterday, announcing the Intuit partnership. And I had someone come to me and they're very confused. They're like, I'm so confused. They're like, I thought that Ben was focusing, but he's not focusing because he's saying yes to this partnership. And they're like, that doesn't make sense because he told us all that he said no to Tony Robbins. Why would he say no to Tony Robbins but say yes to Intuit? Right, so back to opportunity filter.
Yep.
I don't actually want to be positioned as anything close to Tony Robbins. As much as I have deep respect for him, I'm not playing the same game as Tony Robbins. I would rather actually have what we're doing compared more to Intuit. That may sound weird because we're actually a training company, and Intuit's a technology company, right? But I want us not, again, I already said we're not a coaching business. We're a research and advising company. And I want us to be as far away considered from the coaching businesses as I could. So why would I partner with Tony Robbins? Right? Like, that would actually put us into his world. And that would actually, I think, muddle what we're trying to build.
Yes.
And so Intuit is this very prestigious company that serves tens of millions of business owners. Right? And we're trying to help business owners understand the difference between growing a company and scaling a company. And we're actually creating that new paradigm because before us, no one created that distinction. And so if I get the opportunity to go in front of Intuit's client base and inform them that there's a fundamental difference between linearly growing a business and exponentially scaling it, and we're the ones who have that framework, and here's a framework for how to 10x your company in 3 years, and yes, we did partner with Intuit so that we could teach you about that because they care enough about you that we can teach you that. To me, it just makes a lot of sense to get in front of tens of millions of business owners and to be positioned as this is the person who understands scaling. So that's why. Whereas Tony, it would have brought us back. So strategy is about divergence or differentiation. When you don't have a strategy, what happens is you're going to converge back to the mean. You don't want to converge. You don't want to accidentally converge back to what everyone else is doing. And so for me, you got to be very careful does this thing converge us? Does this decision converge us back to the mean? Does it converge us back with what everyone else is doing? Is this closer to what everyone else is doing, or is this our strategy? Right? And I think what happens is that because most people don't have strategy, and most people are, they're worried about what everyone else is doing, they're all going to give you very linear advice. They're going to give you advice about what everyone else is doing, and it's going to seem like best practice, but usually if it's best practice, it lives on the bell curve. It's what everyone else is doing. And so, writing books is phenomenal, right? And so we're very happy to write books. We're just going to make sure if this is a fundamental part of our strategy, we're going to do it at that level. We're not going to do it at that level. If we're going to do anything, we're going to make sure that we're doing it at the power law level. We're going to do it to the level of mastery and distinction that it can stand out and be rare signal in the marketplace to whoever we want to do it to. If we're going to do 5 things on that level, 5 things on a competitive level, on a bell curve level, we're not going to do it. That's going to that's going to be very linear for us.
Nice. So move toward, if you were telling these people, move towards specialization.
I would even say mastery.
Okay, mastery.
Because I think it is specialization though, but mastery. The difference between a specialist and a master is that a master, I guess you could say a specialist, they know the game pretty well, right? But a master knows where to change the game.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, a specialist may know the knowledge, but a master ultimately ends up creating knowledge. You know? And also the master knows where the things are wrong in what's taken for granted knowledge. The master can start to see through that because they have different perspectives, both micro and macro. They can see what others can't see. And I think you can get to that level of mastery, by the way. You can absolutely get to that level of understanding where an expert might be able to say, this is how it works, and the master would say, well, here's actually where it actually goes the opposite way.
What an amazing session from my good friend and scaling partner, Dr. Benjamin Hardy. If you've learned something new, make sure and put it down in the comments below. And if you found this video useful, subscribe, because I put out videos every week for you to build a better future for yourself. See you in the next one.